This morning, a Toronto-based law firm is representing some of the people who were on board that Delta flight that flipped upside down and burst into flames. Flight 4819, you see it here, went down on Monday. There were 80 people on board. None was killed, but some were hurt. Delta is offering passengers $30,000 each. The money is no strings attached. It does, however, not prevent those passengers from filing a lawsuit.